Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. Today we're going to be talking about when the Bitcoin bottom is finally going to be cemented. We only have 1 month left until our projected 4-year cycle low. On top of that, Bitcoin has been accumulating for over 100 days. Are we finally building a foundation before we start the next major bull cycle and go into new all-time highs? Or are we ultimately going to see one final low before the end of the year? I'm personally leaning that the markets are much more bullish. Many of our big long-term indicators are flashing that now should be a time of buying rather than selling. So for today's video, we're going to break it down so that you guys can make the most profit as we get close towards the end of this year, so that you guys can all go ahead and nail the bottom and watch as we make life-changing wealth over the next couple years. If you're new and just find this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to the channel for more updates. Always remember to click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And make sure you guys go ahead and download my free ebook and Beginner's Guide to Crypto. If you're new and you want extra educational content to teach you guys some of the basics of investing, links are in the description to go ahead and download my free ebook. It's going to help you guys out tremendously. Check it out. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so here we are today talking about the similarities that we see between our last bear market and the similarities we're seeing today. Now the price structure itself is very different, but the emotions that we're seeing is very much the same. One of the big things for people that weren't around for that 2018 bear market, or the ones that didn't pay enough attention, that weren't around following other analysts, what we saw at that 6K support was Bitcoin consolidated here for about 8 months. We consolidated here for the majority of the bear market. And I remember seeing everybody, the majority of analysts on Twitter, the majority of people, the average thought and opinion was that Bitcoin was bottoming and we were about to start our next cycle. And then what ended up happening was we got our final sell-off in that cycle and we crashed about another 45%, all the way back down to about $3.2 thousand. And I remember this time because throughout this entire 8-month process, everybody was accumulating, everybody was really bullish, everybody was looking for that next bull cycle. And then the second that we caved through the support, I remember watching tons of analysts, some of these guys that had, hundreds of thousands of followers that were super, super bullish throughout here. And then the second that we lost to support, something changed where instead of them talking about upside potential, they were drawing targets all the way down to like $1,800 and sub $1,000. And this is kind of the same thing that we're seeing today. What I noticed was in the same way that everybody was kind of bullish at 6K support, a lot of people were bullish, including myself, at 30K support. Everybody was kind of watching that this level was going to hold. And then what I noticed was the second that we actually capitulated below that 30K level, a lot of those same people that were really bullish all the way through up here, they started to actually talk about downside targets. They started to call for 11K, 10K, some even sub 10K. And that was kind of the same thing that we saw. And I thought it was really interesting because not only did we see some of the similar type of reaction that we saw when we capitulated in our last bear market, but we saw these same emotions play out and the price drop was roughly the same. Now, when we're comparing these two cycles, the only real difference between this bear market and the one in 2018, the one in 2018 corrected about 84%, and the one that we're at today is about 74%. So we're only about 10% difference between the two. And what we saw in our final capitulation from the 6K support to 3,200 in 2018 was a 46% drop, and we saw about a 40% drop here. And so as far as what we're looking at, the emotions have been the same. I've seen a lot of people that started to flip bearish in our final sell-off once we finally peaked below this 30K support level. There's usually always a major support level that people are watching for inside of a bear market, and then when that bear market actually ends up crashing below that level, the prices end up knocking below it. That's when we end up seeing, a lot of people that were really bullish all the way through start to flip, start to sell, start to look for new opportunities, or just get completely out of the market. And so I thought that it was really interesting that in the same sort of sense, we're seeing, kind of the similar type of thing play out. Now, one of the cool things that I think is interesting is not only was our bear market similar as far as, finding a support level, crashing below that, and then once that support level became resistance, it seemed like the consensus was that we were bearish. What is also really interesting to me is how similar this type of consolidation looks, and we take this consolidation, I thought it was really interesting that even our consolidation after our support break, it looks very much the same type of price action. And that's what I thought was really interesting here. Not only have we kind of capitulated before a major psychological support level that caused a lot of people that were bullish to flip bearish, on top of that, we've kind of started to build a range that was similar to the range that we saw here. Now, we're currently a little over 100 days inside of this range for Bitcoin today. And if we're looking at pretty much the same point in our last cycle, it took about 125 days before we broke out of this accumulation. This one is happening on a little bit of a longer degree of trend. If we're looking at where we capitulated here at our low compared to where we're at, we're sitting at just under 110 days so far. And so if we're comparing the two, this one's going to take a little bit more time, but I don't think it matters, because here's the thing that I want you guys to really pay attention for. When we're looking at stuff, it's important that we consider a number of different conclusions to draw from. Let's come over here and grab a date tool. If we come to the cycle top, all the way down to our very cycle low, it was 362 days, almost exactly 1 calendar year. Now, if we're looking at where we're at today, from our cycle top to where we're at currently, we're sitting at about 329, 30 days approximately. So we're right there within that same threshold. We've corrected about 74% from the all-time highs. We're also almost exactly 1 year from those all-time highs. These were all the major bottoming signals that we got in Bitcoin right before we made that run to 14K. And so I think that we're going to spend a little bit more time consolidating here, and it would build somewhat of a more foundation, kind of like this. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Bitcoin is just going to follow this exact trend and we're going to go straight up like this. It's not going to happen. The way that the price structure is going to vary inside of this cycle is going to be greatly. Every cycle is always very much different. But the things that are the same are the time frames, as well as the percent decline from the all-time highs. And the emotions are the same. Those are the three things that stay the constant throughout every single Bitcoin bear market. And what I've noticed inside of this bear market, even though the price structure looks vastly different in a lot of ways, it's still following kind of the same sort of thing. This 30K support level is a psychological level that a lot of people were watching in the exact same way that this 6K support level was a major psychological level we were watching. The second that that level was broken, it really caused a lot of people that were on the fence, or the people that were just really bullish, to completely flip the opposite. They switched scripts, and then they started preaching downside possibilities. One of the big things that I personally was watching for, and you guys got to remember that this is the first time this has ever happened inside of a Bitcoin cycle. We literally came all the way down and we retested a previous all-time high. This has never once happened before. And I think a lot of people are fading how big of an opportunity this is actually going to be. You know, obviously a year, 2 years from now, when we're seeing the market break out, Bitcoin's in another new bull trend, you know, we're going to look back at these moments and everybody's going to sit there and say, oh man, it was so obvious that Bitcoin was a good buy. It was literally sitting on the previous all-time highs of a cycle. That had never happened before. I guarantee you that we're all going to look back and we're all going to be saying these sort of things in hindsight, right? Hindsight's 20/20. We as humans are always kind of looking at the rear view mirror, trying to predict what's going to happen in our present reality or in the future. And this is another example of exactly that. One of the best ways that we can be profitable is kind of to expect the unexpected, and as well as just simply having that foresight to see how things can kind of develop inside of our next cycle. And with me, you know, we have a lot of big long-term signals that are flashing that, hey, our bear market is nearing over. We've corrected about the same threshold that we've seen in prior bear markets. We've also seen some of the same psychological levels and emotions that have been played out in each cycle. And we're also seeing similarities. And in my opinion, one of the biggest things is the fact that something that has never happened before is kind of playing out. And because of that, it catches a lot of people off guard. A lot of people don't know what to do, and so they usually just sit out completely. But for me, when I'm looking at the price of Bitcoin, the fact that we have retested this previous all-time high, and we're doing this right at almost exactly 1 calendar year from our cycle top, which historically is where we see bear market bottoms end, I really think that this is going to go down as one of those big opportunities that a lot of people had to accumulate at this cycle low that they missed out on. Now, because the price action is different, I can't tell you what the next cycle is going to look like. I'm here to tell you guys that I think it'll be a lot different than prior cycles. One of the things that I don't expect it to play out as far as like our last cycle is the fact that we never saw real adoption in this last cycle. And we haven't seen real adoption in any of the cycles. Yes, this 2017 run was very parabolic, much more parabolic than the one that we saw throughout 2019 through 2021. But nonetheless, it's a lot of that has to do with the fact that we had so many negative kind of fundamental reasons for the price to go low. China banned Bitcoin at the top. The Fed stopped quantitative easing. There was a lot of there was a lot dragging the prices of Bitcoin lower, and a lot that was kind of hindering the development and the growth of Bitcoin. But with that being said, we did get new on-ramps than ever before. And in my opinion, we have the ability and we have the infrastructure that if we were to see a true adoption cycle where we see tons of retail adoption take off, I believe that now is the time that we could actually see that. And it's heading into our next cycle. And so with that being said, guys, I think it's really important to consider these things. We're always looking in terms of, adoption inside of Bitcoin. How early are we actually inside of these cycles? Is this close to the end of the cycles? Are people that are getting in now late? I don't believe so, because literally we don't even have true regulation inside of these markets yet. It's not even a confirmed it's nowhere close to being what we expect it to be. I mean, for me personally, I view crypto and blockchain as having a $50 to $80 trillion market cap, most likely in the next 10 to 15 years. It could happen shorter than that. When we're looking at crypto, we view this similar as the internet bubble. And in my opinion, where we're at today with cryptos is pretty much the early 2000s, right before that big internet bubble that we saw. It was in the mid-early 2000s that we saw that giant internet bubble. Pets.com, Amazon, many of these big stocks, these tech stocks, were just going crazy. And in my opinion, we're going to see that same thing happen again in crypto. We will see a very big parabolic cycle, and it's going to drive a lot of adoption, not only to crypto, but also just to the mainstream markets as well. I mean, crypto is going to be a part of this. We're going to get true regulation. We're going to get clarity in all of these things. And crypto will be used in the same way that the internet was. You guys got to keep in mind that how many people were bearish on the internet? How many people were skeptical on the internet throughout the 90s and early 2000s? Majority of people. Almost everybody was saying that it was going to fail, that it wasn't going to work. And it's almost the same thing that's playing out inside of crypto. The one thing that you can count on between each and every cycle is the humans that are trading and investing are going to stay the same. It's the same emotions and it's the same dumb and smart people that are causing the markets to move. You guys got to remember that. In the same way that everybody was bearish on the world, the same way that everybody's bearish on the internet, that it would never do anything, it took off and it was actually the most profitable market cycle up until crypto that you could have traded. A lot of people that I actually follow now for learning how to trade, especially in 2018 when I was learning and studying a lot from traders, a lot of those guys made all of their millions trading early in the internet bubble. And a lot of those same analysts were comparing crypto as that same thing as the internet bubble. And in my opinion, this is going to be so much bigger because it's so much bigger than just the internet. This is the Internet of Things. So in the same way that the internet connected us to this pretty much interweb where we could finally communicate and share value globally, Bitcoin and crypto is going to do that. But instead of it just being a way to communicate and share value, it's going to be a way for all of our things, all of everything, our money, our information, all of that type of data is going to be shared equally, and we're going to have a way to do all of this. And so I think a lot of people don't understand how valuable crypto is because they don't fully understand what crypto is going to do. And when we're seeing these cycles, when we're seeing these major long-term indicators that are flashing buy signals that are telling us, hey, historically, this has marked an amazing opportunity to get in the market, and so why not use that opportunity? I mean, here's the thing, guys. The bearish scenario for Bitcoin for me is that we end up dropping another 10%. It's not going to be that much of a move, right? All of our prior bear markets have corrected about mid 80%. This is the only one that we haven't. In the same thought, we didn't have quite the same parabolic rally to the upside. So I'm not necessarily expecting that we have to follow a mid 80% correction. The fact that we're sitting on these previous all-time highs of the last cycle, the fact that this came after a 74% correction, which is pretty much right on par with prior bear markets, and also the fact that we're almost exactly 1 calendar year from our cycle top. These are all major long-term indicators that are telling us you are much better off to be buying Bitcoin now than you are selling it. And so for me, guys, at the end of the day, there's going to be people that hate. There's going to be people that are commenting every single video saying that I'm an idiot, saying that it's bearish, saying that we're going to new lows. And I'm here to tell you guys that when I created my channel back in 2018, it was the same consensus when we were down here. Everybody was angry, everybody was losing money, everybody said that the market was over, and that was right when it rebounded. I'm seeing the same emotions playing out again. A lot of bearish people, a lot of angry people, and it's all these same people that are giving us an idea of what's going to happen. It's the people that are commenting angry stuff that are the most emotional. It's these people that don't understand what they're doing in investing. They just simply throw money at the wall. They watch a YouTube video and go all in on one video. It's these people that are causing the markets to move in the biggest ways because they're the most emotional people inside the market. It's emotion that drives the price of Bitcoin. It always has been emotion. That's the reason why all of these cycles are so very similar each and every time. It's because it's the emotions that are driving all of this sentiment. And so as we're watching these things, I think it's important that we consider some of the short-term perspectives as well. The long-term, in my opinion, is telling us in every single sort of sense that the major long-term cycle low is about to be put in, if it's not already. So what is the short-term telling us? Well, the short-term is telling us some really important things. One of the big things I was watching for is the OBV. Now, the OBV is really a great indicator for understanding when a trend is going to reverse. And what we saw throughout this entire consolidation, and why I really wasn't confident that this was going to hold, was the fact that the OBV just kept making lower lows. The OBV was trending all the way back down here, and it didn't bottom until right here. So the OBV had been going lower, making lower lows, lower highs all the way through. And even though the RSI was kind of trending up, the RSI is almost a valueless indicator by itself. I like to compare it with the OBV because the OBV is going to give you a strong signal when that signal comes. And what we notice here, when we got our most recent attempt at a breakout, we ran up to 22,000 and then we sold off. What we noticed inside of the OBV, we actually made a higher high. And so that happening gave us our first higher high in this trend. That was our first instance where our entire bear market, the OBV, had just been trending down, all the way down, especially in our most recent sell-off. In this consolidation, I was leaning bearish because of the fact that OBV wasn't giving us a signal until this move here. And now things are starting to get interesting because now we can look at the RSI and we can get another form of data to pull off of that is giving us another signal. In my opinion, the RSI by itself is not very valuable, but when we add it and combine it with the OBV, it becomes very valuable. And what we see here, after a break to 20,000, we ended up making a lower low here. Technically, this was a lower low. We broke below our support before our bounce. And what we saw in that move was the OBV made a higher high, we held support, and the RSI is doing a divergence. It's actually making bullish divergence. The RSI technically has been divergent since here, and that's why I tell you guys that the RSI itself is not the most valuable indicator. But when we see the OBV finally breaking out after only seeing lower lows and lower highs all the way through, and we're also seeing this bullish divergence, in my opinion, that's a strong signal. We have two different points of data to go off of. And so in the short term, I actually think that we're going to see a little bit of a bounce. And it's probably going to play out something like this. Like I've stated, guys, I look at this chart right now. Keep in mind, this is the total market cap. I look at this cycle and I see that for the first time ever, we've retested a previous all-time high. That's never once happened before. And I really strongly believe that we're going to look back at this, and a lot of people that weren't willing to buy now are going to really regret those decisions. I look at this, the fact that all of our major long-term signals between the 4-year cycle as well as just percent loss, all lining up that the bottom is in, all of that's also happening right as we've retested a previous all-time high for the first time. Now, on top of that, we're starting to see our short-term indicators flashing bullish. This is telling me that there's a lot of short-term strength happening. One of the big things that I think is interesting is the fact that so many of the other markets have performed well. For example, the US dollar index. We made a massive breakout. September 13th, we made this large breakout and a higher high. But what did Bitcoin do? And what did the total market cap do? It literally made a slight low, right? This was our lower low for Bitcoin in the crypto markets. And this was the higher high that we saw for the dollar. All of these higher highs, they bled Bitcoin a lot more. These sell-offs were a lot more significant for Bitcoin. Or I should say these pumps. Because you guys got to remember, when the dollar rises, Bitcoin sells off. So this is going to be doing the inverse correlation of Bitcoin. Every time we retested the 50-day and we moved up, Bitcoin had a huge sell-off. If we go back to May 30th and we take a look, May 30th was right here. This was the sell-off that we saw. And so we've noticed that every single pump, we get these massive moves to the downside for Bitcoin. Now, pretty much since August 10th, we had one of the biggest rises in the dollar that we've seen for a long time. And throughout that period, Bitcoin, didn't even make a lower low. And so I think that these are two big things to consider. It's not like we've got confirmation yet because we still are inside of our descending resistance. But because we do have these short-term signals that are flashing bullish, we see divergence starting to form, and we've yet to make a lower low, even though the DXY has been just honestly ripping. It's been doing very, very good. On top of that, the SPX, the S&P 500, it's made a lower low. All of those two things have happened, and Bitcoin is yet to make a lower low. In fact, it's showing strength. That tells me that there is a lot more buy support right here at these lows than people are leading it to believe. And so let's talk about a bullish scenario. What happens if we end up cementing a low here? What happens if we end up actually getting some relief? Well, we have this descending resistance, and this is going to kind of be our line in the sand for the next little while. If we make another attempt at breakout like this one right here, and we get rejected, then I would expect that we fall to one more low. But if we can actually get outside of this descending resistance, I believe that that's going to set us up for a move from about 30 to 40,000. And that's most likely the move that we would see. Keep in mind, guys, that I think that a lot of people are fading the potential that the cycle low is very close to being in. And like I've stated, guys, all of our long-term signals are flashing. I've been doing this for 6 years. I've really been able to nail a lot of the major cycle lows just by dollar cost averaging and accumulating. And in the same sense that I was looking to buy throughout this period of time, if you guys go back on my channel, I have a video called The Bottom is In, Bitcoin versus gold. And that was literally when we were sitting at here at $4,000. I called the bottom on Bitcoin. And it was simply just because of the fact we had so many big long-term signals that were flashing bullish. In the same sense that I was bullish back here at our cycle lows, I'm feeling very much the same sense right here. Now, I will say that I don't think that it's as confirmed right now because we still have to get outside of a couple hurdles. But in the short term, like I've stated 100 times, we are starting to get those early reversal signals. On top of that, it's very much the same sort of emotions that are playing out compared to our last cycle. All of these reasons are giving me a lot of confidence that the bear market bottom is very close, if not already being in, and we are about to start that next major new bull run. Don't fade the potential. Don't fade the opportunity. There's so many huge things that are playing out right now that a lot of people are going to miss. And one of these cycles is going to be the big one, guys. One of these cycles, speaking of which, let me just go to the NASDAQ. When we come to the NASDAQ, I wanted to share with you guys this chart because this is the internet bubble. This was the internet bubble. We saw this entire period where it was just steady growth, right? And this is just the average economy. The internet pretty much started here in about early 90s. So from this point, this was the internet bubble. And this was the real internet bubble. This was the internet bubble cycle top. This is why I'm trying to get you guys prepared for the coming, whenever it is, the true mainstream adoption cycle, because that is going to be the most profitable one. If you just have some sound investments in a couple good cryptos, when that mainstream adoption takes place and your crypto gets used by institutions on a global level, you will make so much money that it literally won't matter. All that matters is that you're prepared beforehand. You could have lost a lot of money in the bear market. You could have just never have even gotten any of the cycles, and you might be sitting here thinking you've already missed out. I am here to tell you guys that you surely haven't. Where you're getting in right now is basically this period. It was the build up before our blow off top. This was the true internet bubble, and this is what happened after. This was multiple years of just a lot of sideways downtrending and a lot of nothingness. If that's going to be the case again, you're going to want to make sure that you were here beforehand, because here's the thing. If you miss out on this, you missed out on the internet bubble. You missed out on all of the major profits. There wasn't another huge opportunity until, after the 2008 financial crisis. We saw a lot of those internet stocks go into another new all-time high. But I mean, you had to wait another 10 years approximately before that even started happening. Don't underestimate this opportunity, because I believe crypto is going to be way more profitable than the internet stock bubble ever was, by a landslide. All of these cryptos are going to do a lot of big things inside of our global world. They're literally going to fractionalize so much of our banking industries, so much of our financial industries, so much of these things that we rely on every single day is going to be completely revolutionized by crypto in the same way that the internet was. All that matters is that you have a little bit of exposure before that internet bubble. Because if you're in before the big euphoric blow off top, I'm telling you, you're in and you're good for life. All that matters is that you're in early and you take profits in that final top. All of what I've been doing in crypto is preparing for that big euphoric retail adoption cycle, and we have not seen that. I've been in crypto for 6 years. We have not gotten anywhere close to seeing that. Our last cycle was almost just disrespectful if we're looking in terms of being a true mainstream adoption, because we saw the opposite. We saw more things that were fighting against crypto than were actually here to benefit it. And that tells me that somebody's buying, somebody's accumulating. If China bans Bitcoin, and we also have all of these negative things with quantitative easing stopping, the market was going to drop regardless. In my opinion, China is not trying to fade Bitcoin. They're trying to buy Bitcoin. They always have been. They've always tried to fade Bitcoin. And I believe that they're not doing that just because they hate Bitcoin. I believe that they're also accumulating it in closed doors. With that being said, there's so many big things to watch for, and so if you guys found value on this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. If you guys want to join the Discord server, download my free ebook. Links are in the description for that. You guys can also sign up for my VIP course. If you guys want to follow my signals, all the trades that I take, NFT picks, anything that I'm doing with my money, like Pulse Chain and the new ecosystem that's going to launch, you guys want to get access to that, and it's going to be inside of the description of this video. Go ahead and sign up on my website. I look forward to seeing you guys in there. Thank you guys so much for the support, and with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.